All right, so I'm gonna start off with a crazy story, and then I'll talk about a really fun match that I just got back from yesterday. So here's my crazy story to start with. There's a match in southern Minnesota. It's called the Red Star match, and I was gonna sleep at a house of somebody that I knew, and without knowing it, I slept in a room where somebody else used to stay. Long story short, middle of the night, there's a guy trying to break through the window. As far as we can tell, trying to break through the window that I'm in is the first time I have ever had to defensively consider using a weapon with somebody. And I'm not going to talk more about it just because of the nature of that situation and how that turned out. But that was really jarring in the middle of the night. Eye-opening experience for sure. And as much as you think you're a tough guy and you're going to fight everybody in the middle of the night, this was a good learning experience for me. And I noticed something. I didn't go back to sleep. So unfortunately, the reason I drove there was so I could sleep better before the match and not be exhausted. And I didn't sleep more than maybe 30 or 40 minutes. I think it was actually 30 minutes. I saw 7 o'clock and I was up and going at 7:30 for this match. So I went almost a sleepless night directly into a match, which is kind of interesting. So my first comment is just about that story. It's really good to practically consider weapon storage, where you have things when you're in transitional spaces and you're going to be in a place that you don't know, with people you don't know, in a house you don't know, in a neighborhood you don't know. Just practically speaking, if you're going to take the risk of carrying a pistol, which I always do, I just carry it with me all the time, it's good to be acknowledging the situations that you might find yourself in, and just knowing the layout of a house or another place that you're going to stay at, where people are sleeping, where they are. Thankfully, I had a good enough understanding that I felt like I was really, really safe and comfortable with what I potentially needed to do in that situation. Again, I'm not going to comment more on it right now. But anyways, that was wild. And that led right into the Red Star match for me. And it was a fun match. I loved it. One of the coolest parts about it was I got to shoot with at least one person from my area, actually from my city, that I didn't know was going to be there, and it was super fun. You're going to see some of that with a couple of friends at the match there that I got to meet. I had a really cool squad of guys, very, very laid back group of people who were understanding and accepting of each one of our skills and talents. Some of us were a little better than others and understood how to shoot better than others, or understood PRS or NRL better with rules. All of this was a little bit of a learning experience for me, and so thank you to my squad. If you guys are catching this video, you're watching it, I appreciate your patience as I'm figuring things out. I'm going to tell you that performance-wise, everybody walks away from a match, any match I've ever been at, and they usually say, I should have done better. And it's true. It's always true. We always walk away and we criticize ourselves. We're our biggest critics, as we should be, because we know what optimum performance looks like, and then lesser than performance. The beeper goes off and your head goes to mush, just like every other competition. But in this example, I was honest with myself. I waited a little bit, I thought about it, and I wanted to just say, I think I could have shot better, because fundamentally it was a few stupid mistakes. There were things that were process-based that led to errors. It wasn't like bad data. Most of my data is actually pretty good. It's pretty spot on. Choosing a less than preferred bullet, that's okay. I was still shooting a 1 MOA bullet at distance. It shoots much tighter, closer in, but at distance, at 6, 7, 8, 900 yards, it's still 1 MOA off the ground, off the prone. Positionally and dealing with some of that, I just made some interesting decisions. I think my order of operations, sometimes as I was assessing stages, I don't think I thought through things as clearly as I should have, or could have, or really would have most of the time. So I made some errors that are easy to redeem, and in my next match I plan to do a lot better because of that. And that's probably part of the fun of shooting these matches, is that you can walk away from each one and be like, okay, I suffered in this area this time, and next time I'm not going to make those same mistakes. I'm going to think more critically about it, be more well prepared, go practice that out of my discipline so that I know how to engage targets more consistently, how to position superior. I did make some amateur mistakes this time, and I noticed that in my position, and when I looked at the score, as long as it's still reflected the same right now, I'm sure it is, but the score, there were 3 of us in the same bracket, and all of us kind of said the same thing, like, yeah, I could have shot better. And I don't think my score would have changed a huge amount. I wouldn't have been in the top 5 all of a sudden. That's just not what I'm saying at all. But I think I probably could have bumped myself a good number of positions with just squaring away the fundamentals and processing stage order a little better. I engaged targets sometimes in a funky way. I wasn't totally comfortable at times. And so whether that be fatigue or just inexperience, both are probably true. And I'm excited for the next match because this match was so useful for kind of drawing out where I lacked skill and what I didn't understand well. So anyways, Savage 110 EP used 140 grain SMKs, which are just fine. Nothing wrong with that bullet. It was fine for consistency out to, I think we shot 1267, if I remember right. So up to 1267, it was fine for consistency. The Element is amazing. It is so superior. The glass quality, I did kind of hunt around and look at other people's optics, and there's a lot of good glass there. But I'm going to tell you, I think the Element optic won the day. And one of the reasons is we started with rain, and I did not have my cap on the end. I left the objective open. Excellent clarity, sharpness, detail, contrast was fantastic. And I looked through a couple other people's optics and I'm like, I don't know how you guys are even hitting the targets you're hitting, because sometimes it's just blurry, poor contrast, just generally not that good of glass quality with some other optics, even big brand optics. And then as the sun came out, we did start to get a little bit, you could just feel the humidity coming out, and the brightness was maybe just reflecting a lot back. I decided, even though this is sitting up on a little bit higher rings, I've adjusted to some higher rings, I did put this on, and you know what? It does knock down the Mirage in a very noticeable way. It is not a gimmick, it is not a trick. This helped knock down Mirage. And then also, I just felt like the image was better. I don't know how else to talk about it other than just to say it just seemed like a more pleasing image. And I've gone back and forth with that to test it a lot of times. This thing is the real deal. I plan on taking this with to every match in the future and every range day, just depending on the conditions. It's not really that much of an inconvenience for me to throw that aperture on there. So well done to Element Optics, well done to Savage and Federal Ammunition and everybody else who was involved with all of this. Weebad Mini Fortune Cookie, this bag, I love it. I don't really want to use a Game Changer. I like sticking to the smaller bag actually, and this is the only one I use in every single rifle match. It's just that one. So at this match, I started off actually planning to not do any filming. I was just gonna shoot for fun because I already knew I was screwed up from the night before with just how exhausted I was, and I didn't get supper and then I didn't get breakfast. And I just knew I was gonna be screwed up. I didn't plan to film, but I always have my camera with me and I was having fun with the guys, so I decided to just take the camera out. This isn't super dynamic. It's not like a typical video that I usually do. I try to get a lot of angles and focus on the videography aspect. I didn't do quite as much of that, but I did set up the camera, and I want to show you guys a little bit from just a couple stages and a couple of really, really good shooters, maybe a few really, really good shooters actually I think are recorded, and they'll give you a breakdown of their rifles, which I think everybody else is shooting open class. The only reason I was in open class is because I put an optic that was too expensive on a production rifle, and I knew that going into it, and that was fine. I wasn't going there to win, but these other guys definitely had a fighting chance to win. They're really good shooters. So enjoy this.